Watch the hole. Okay. 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 We're good. All right. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the presentation. I'm Tekking. Okay. These are bounties. They are the single most important thing in the entire One Piece story. Okay? There is not a single thing more relevant or important to anyone in this story than the numbers under these pictures. I am sorry, Luffy. Oh my god, I think I mangled the crap out of Luffy here. That's okay, though. That's okay. Alright, so now that's my point. That's my point. Nobody cares about the pictures. They just care about the numbers, okay? So, we just had the wrap-up of a major arc in One Piece. Wano has concluded. So now, these numbers, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, are going to get even bigger. Now, how big will they get? Well, that's what we're here today to discuss, okay? But one thing is for sure, they're gonna be big, okay? So that's what's important, is big numbers in this story. Presentation concluded. Okay, I know despite the fact that presentation was done with a sarcastic tone, I'm the same way. I love it whenever the new bounties come out, okay? It's just like, it's the insane thing. It's like every single good shonen manga needs a way to, like, track the characters. You know, like Dragon Ball had power levels, Toriko had the capture level of the beast that they fought, you know. One Piece has bounties, okay? It's really impressive whenever Luffy's numbers go through the roof, okay? Remember when he hit 1.5 billion? I remember when he hit 1.5 billion. I didn't think it was going to get that high, but I lost my shit over it, okay? So that's how this works, all right? So, yeah, we're going to have a good old-fashioned bounty discussion. This is fun. I did do a video about this, I think back in 2020, just talking about how the bounties of the Straw Hats would be at the end of Wano. So, I was going to go back and rewatch that to see, like, the numbers that I threw out for the Straw Hats to see if my opinion has changed at all. But have you ever actually sat down and tried to watch one of my videos? Oh my god, it takes forever, right? I go off on tangents all the damn time, I never get to the point, and the video's like 25 minutes long. Who's got time for that? I don't. So you know what? I'm just gonna make this video, and if it syncs up with the first one I made, congratulations. If it doesn't, well, I guess I changed my mind on it, alright? That's just how that goes, alright? So, when I did the review a couple days ago, I talked about, like, just in general, like, Luffy's bounty is going to be 5 billion, Zoro's is going to be 3-4 billion, whatever. I was just throwing out numbers. There's a few of those that I actually do want to see happen, and the other ones I just kind of making stuff up as I went. So I actually sat down and I'm like, okay, not every single member of the Straw Hat crew is going to have over a billion berry bounty, okay? Now, I say that, but we'll see what happens. No, it won't happen because Chopper will not have even close to that, okay? But then again, even with Chopper, I'm kind of curious if this is going to be the time where his bounty actually becomes a real bounty, all right? So maybe this will be it. Because as I said in the review, like, this might very well be the last time that bounties even matter in the story. Because we're moving on to Laugh Tale. We're moving on to the final saga or arc or whatever you want to call it of One Piece, right? So, by that logic, it's like, after this is over, the Straw Hats, you know, Luffy finds the One Piece, becomes king of the pirates, he'll probably get a new bounty then, but then, like, the story will be over, you know? Like, at best, we'll see Luffy get a new bounty of, like, some insane number. It's like 10 billion berries or whatever. It's like, whoa, Luffy's final bounty was 10 billion berries, but then after that, we might get, like, a short epilogue arc in One Piece, maybe a flash forward to the future, and then the story's over, you know? So this is like the last time we'll be able to revel in it, you know? Like, the Straw Hats bounties, they're insane numbers, you know? They might very well be, and this is no exaggeration, the most wanted crew in the entire world, with Luffy himself maybe having the highest active bounty out of any member of any group. You know, Yonko, Warlord, doesn't matter. Remember, the Warlords are now back to being pirates, so their bounties are reactivated and are probably being reassessed right now. Like, Boa's original original bounty was only like 81 million before it was frozen. No, I think Crocodile's was 81. I think Boa's was 80. I think she had the lowest before it was frozen. But she's been the Empress of Amazon Lily for like 11 years now, right? So that bounty was frozen a long time ago. So it's probably going to be reassessed and easily in the hundreds of millions, right? If not higher than that, right? So yeah, but doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter about the Warlords or the other Yonko. Right now, since Kaido and Big Mom have been defeated, the person that has the highest bounty, the highest active bounty that we know of in piracy in One Piece, would be Shanks right here. And it's covered up by the mic. But actually, this is a good point to bring this up. So I haven't opened these up yet for the fan mail video. I'm going to be doing that later this week, actually. But we have this here, which is a neat little thing that was sent to me by someone just called B. And just said, "Hi, Matthew. I've been a fan of yours since around 2016. I recently launched a fan site to compile every single wanted poster in One Piece. Each poster takes around 3 hours to draw, and I have now remastered all 221 canon posters that exist in the series. I included a few of them for you in this package." He says a few, they say a few of them, but literally this box has like, I don't know, like a lot of them. Like at least, this is just one packet of the bounty posters I have, and there's at least like 5 or 6 in the box. So we'll get to that when I open all of the fan mail this week. But just to give you an idea, so we have, you know, Roger here, and, you know, we have his crew, we got Rayleigh. So even, like, wanted posters that don't have, like, we don't know Rayleigh's bounty, but it's easily over 1 billion, so they just, like, faded it out. And then we have, you know, Odin there. It's kind of weird we never found out what Odin's bounty is, although he did have one. And then we have Shanks right here. So I believe Shanks right now would have the highest active bounty that we know of, you know, with 4,048,900,000, okay? Shiyanku. So there you go. Shiyanku, or Shanks. There you go. Oda loves his number puns. Okay, so I guess it's always possible, of course, that Dragon, who is the leader of the Revolutionary Army and is often dubbed the most wanted man in the world, of course, would have a bounty that's higher than Shanks's, but right now he has the highest. But that could very well all change in the next chapter, all right? And I'm doing this video now on a Monday. Spoilers are not out yet, but it's going to be insane this week, so I'm just letting everybody know, like, when spoilers do come out, I would really prefer if you don't go in the comments of this video and say you were right or you were wrong. Here's the actual numbers that we know in the spoilers, because spoilers are probably going to be out. I'm saying probably. I don't know for certain, but considering how hype this next chapter is, they might be out as early as tomorrow on Tuesday. So I'm putting this video out today on Monday when there's no spoilers out. I don't want people to go on this video like tomorrow or Wednesday and just post the list of like what the bounties actually are when we find out the spoilers. So please don't do that. It ruins the fun for everybody. But yeah, let's just talk about the Straw Hats. Okay, so let's start with Luffy. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I am very adamant about Luffy's bounty being at least 5 billion. Okay, I've said 5.6 billion because that would go along with the number pun, you know, 56. But even if you don't want to go that highball with it and you just want to say it's 5 billion, you know, not 5.6, that's too high, just an even 5. That would still be less than Whitebeard and Roger, which is symbolic of Luffy. Like, okay, maybe the world government deems him as an emperor, and we don't know who the new emperors are yet either, but I'm assuming Luffy's going to be one of them, because he was already considered the 5th emperor, right? So Luffy's going to be considered a full-time emperor, and, you know, his bounty is going to be 5 billion. That would indicate that, like, okay, Luffy is very, very close to reaching the heights of Whitebeard and Roger, but he's not quite there yet. And that would also be indicative of his own mindset, okay? Luffy will not deem himself the king of the pirates or a truly great pirate until he finds Laugh-Tale and until he finds out what the One Piece is, okay? By pretty much every other metric, he is already a great pirate. It's sort of like the situation with Usopp, where Usopp's dream is to become a brave warrior of the sea. I think most people, actually, you know what? I'll throw a vote up on my YouTube community tab because I barely use that. But I will throw up a vote, and it'll probably be live by the time this video comes out. So you can go over there and vote whether or not you consider Usopp a brave warrior of the sea. Pretty sure most people in the One Piece community would agree he is, okay? But does he view himself that way? That's what's more important, okay? Same thing with Luffy. Luffy punched out a Yonko, all right? He punched out Kaido. He's achieved Gear 5th. He's awakened his Devil Fruit. You know, he's already a great pirate, all right? He's already, I think, deserving at this point in the story to stand up there with the best of them, with Shanks and Odin and even Wang Zhi and Whitebeard and Roger. Now, does that mean he's at the same same level that Roger was? No. In terms of power level, no. Same thing with Whitebeard in his prime. But he deserves, I think, to stand up there at this point in the story in that tier, in that group of people. You know what I mean? So 5 billion I would be happy with at least, because it'd be like, all right, he is the highest active pirate in the world, even higher than Shanks's bounty, who is, of course, the pirate that inspired him and is a Yonko as well. And so now Shanks and Luffy are kind of standing in the same tier. So not quite as high as Whitebeard or Rogers, but that's indicating that he's almost there. And then when he does find Laugh Tale and he does find the One Piece, Luffy's bounty can shoot up to 6, 7, 8 billion, whatever, and then the story can end, and then I'll be a happy camper, okay? But I'm really not lowballing it here, you know? I think they're going to take into consideration, okay, number one, Luffy took out not just Kaido, but also Big Mom was defeated there as well. And it really honestly depends how the Cypher Pole Zero agent relayed this intel to the government, and also the intel that Apu spilled. Because he shows up and they're like, oh, how is the information going to get outside of Wano? It's a closed-off nation. Then Apu shows up and he's like, up. Yeah, I wonder how. And it's like, you idiot, you're the one that leaked it very clearly. So it depends on what Apu said, I guess, to Morgans, you know, and like how the World Economic Journal is actually going to run it, you know, because remember what happened at Totland, right? It was Beiji and Luffy that like kind of joined this alliance. Like Beiji was the one that had the initial plan, but Luffy ended up getting the vast majority of the credit based on Stussy's report and how she, you know, was like, oh, Luffy's very dangerous. He's this Machiavellian schemer. You need to print a, you know, an article about him being the 5th Emperor Morgans, and then Morgans did, right? So, yeah, I think that's the situation, that it'll just depend on how it's spilled. But if Luffy gets the credit for taking out 2 Yonko and also having the power of the Sun God fruit that the government is afraid of, the government is obviously not going to tell the world that he has the Sun God fruit, but his bounty might shoot through the roof just enough, like, oh man, he defeated 2 Yonko. That's the reason why his bounty's like 5 billion. And the Goros say, well, like, yeah, that's part of it, but the other reason is because he has the Sun God fruit, right? So there you go. That's what I think for Luffy. Now, when it comes to, I don't know, the Monster Quartet, the Monster Quintet, if Yamato joins, I'm holding off on Yamato until the very end of this video, because there's a lot of factors involving Yamato, so we'll get to her when we get to her. So for right now, let's just talk about Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbe, okay? Very interesting characters here, and very interesting way that the bounties are going to be tallied. In an SBS before, Oda has mentioned that, of course, when a Yonko, you know, achieves that rank, everybody under that Yonko also gets a huge boost, okay? Very similar in just a much greater way than what happened at Dressrosa, where even the Straw Hats that were not directly involved at the conflict at Dressrosa that left very early on, like Nami and Sanji, their bounties got a boost as well. Same thing with the Yonko fleets and the crews, they're just a lot higher, okay? So, of course, every Straw Hat is going to have a huge major boost. Not every single one's going to be over 1 billion. So, let's look at how this went with the other Yonko. We had Big Mom with a bounty of over 4 billion, and the second highest bounty on her crew was her son, Katakuri, who had a bounty of 1,057,000,000. Now, Katakuri was a sweet commander, and there were, well, 3 sweet commanders more than Katakuri at one point, but Snack was demoted. But Snack even had a bounty of 600 million, Smoothies was over 900 million, and Crackers I forget, but I think it was like 700 million, something around there. It definitely wasn't 1 billion, okay? So Katakuri, despite being one of the commanders of a Yonko crew, and despite being the strongest son of Big Mom, his bounty was the only one that was 1 billion. Cracker was also really powerful, Smoothie was really powerful, and they're also the top commanders, but even they didn't reach over 1 billion. Then you have Kaido's crew, where King, Queen, and Jack all had bounties of either 1 billion or higher. Jack's was an even billion. Queen's was 1.3 something billion, and then I can't remember King's, but it was given. I'll just throw it up there. Numbers are not my strong suit, as you all know very full well at this point. So yeah, and then Kaido's, of course, was over 4 billion, right? It was 4,611,100,000. So I think, though, considering they took out the Beast Pirates and that we're in the climax of this story now, I think at the very least, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbe, and possibly Yamato, but we'll get to Yamato at the end, all have bounties of over 1 billion. I think they pretty much have to at this point, okay? It's easy enough to calculate Zoro and Sanji because they are already considered like the monster trio. They are considered like basically the commanders of the Straw Hat crew under Luffy. They each defeated one of the All-Stars. Zoro defeated King, Sanji defeated Queen, and now they're like one of the most prominent pirate crews in the entire world. If they, honestly, it's going to be so weird where it was sort of like it was like the de facto decision of the world that Luffy was an emperor before, but it's no longer going to be de facto. It's no longer just going to be in some people's minds. No, it is going to be official in the next chapter. Most likely, the 4 Yonko are going to, or the 4 emperors, because the 4 Yonko is like the four emperors, whatever. 4 emperors are going to be Blackbeard, Shanks, and Luffy, and then the 4th one's going to be somebody else we don't know yet. Maybe Kid, maybe Law, we don't know. Maybe somebody else altogether, and that's going to be the twist. We don't know. But Luffy's definitely going to be considered one of the emperors straight up. So the Straw Hat crew is now going to be an official emperor crew. That's going to be crazy just to get used to that, you know what I mean? So in that regard, Zoro and Sanji definitely have to have over 1 billion, and I think it would be fair for them to have at least 2 billion each. So I wrote down here between 2 and 3 billion for both Zoro and Sanji. Okay, now you could play the whole rivalry angle between them. So maybe Zoro's bounty will be a little bit higher than Sanji's, or Sanji's will be a little bit higher than Zoro's, or maybe they'll have the same bounty. We've already played with Zoro having the higher bounty than Sanji, and we've already played with Sanji technically having the higher bounty than Zoro. Now we can play around with them having the exact same one, and them just fighting constantly over it. You know what I mean? That would be fun. So let's just say, hey, they both defeated All-Stars that had 1 billion plus bounties. Let's say even if they just received bounties of 2 billion each, even. Okay, I'm okay with that. Honestly, I would be. I was going to say maybe it could be higher. Honestly, Sanji and Zoro, both 2 billion even, and they could fight about it constantly. Sure, fine. I'd be all right with that. If it's higher, great, but I'd be okay with at least 2 billion. That would, showcase the power of the Straw Hat crew, how it's a crew that took down 2 Emperor crews at once, or that's the way maybe the world will see it as anyway. Or they have the potential to do that, and so they are the major threat in the world now. It's not just like, oh, Luffy's considered the 5th emperor, so he's like the weakest out of the 4. He's like an unofficial, official emperor. No, all that shit's going out the window. They are now a full-fledged emperor crew, and they are one of the most dangerous emperor crews out there, okay? Absolutely. At least that's the way the world government, the Gorosei, Eam, might spin it, all right? So then we have Jinbe, though, and I really wanted to put Jinbe just like, oh, okay, Zoro, Sanji, Jinbe are all going to be around the same number. And it's very possible they might be. It's just the only thing is Jinbe did not defeat an All-Star. Jinbe did not defeat Jack. Inuarashi did. Wonder if Inuarashi's going to get a bounty. That's interesting. I wonder if the Scabbards are going to get a bounty. I guess it depends on the information that Apu gave to the world government. It's like, oh, the samurai, the 9 red Scabbards, they fought too, and so they received bounty. I mean, Izo already had a bounty, but I guess Kinemon and the others didn't because they were, isolated in Wano for most of their life. So maybe they will get bounties now. That'll be an interesting way to spin it. Maybe they... I didn't even consider this, but if the Scabbards received bounties, that would give more incentive for other pirate crews and bounty hunters and the like to attack Wano, which means that they would be more vulnerable when the world government attacks. So that's actually not a bad strategy to give the Scabbards bounties, and then bounty hunters start getting drawn to Wano, start sneaking in to try to attack and kill these Scabbards. Best case scenario, if they manage to defeat one of them, let's say a bounty hunter, one of the, Boba Fett breaks into Wano, and he captures Kinemon or something, and he drags him back to the Marines. The Marines now have, Kinemon captive and could, torture him and stuff, you know what I mean? So, kind of a dark way to twist it, but I guess it's possible, but that's not my point. My point is... I lost my train of thought there. Oh, okay. Jinbe, right? It's like, Jinbe did not defeat Jack. Jinbe defeated Who's Who was a member of the Tobiropo, who was really powerful. He was a former member of Cypher Pool 9. So it might just be like, if they found out that Jinbe defeated Who's Who, then it's like, oh, he defeated basically Rob Lucci, essentially. So I think his bounty's definitely going to go through the roof. Plus the fact that he is also a former warlord. I think it's going to be easily 1 billion, but I just have this idea, this message or voice in my head that's telling me that Jinbei's bounty is not going to be as high as Zoro, Sanji's, and Luffy's. You know, it's going to go Luffy right on the top, Zoro and Sanji right below him, you know, maybe like the 2 billion something mark, and then Jinbei's will be over a billion, but it'll be like 1.7, 1.8, like whatever King's bounty was. Insert that number here. Jinbei's might be like a little bit like rounded up higher than that, okay? So if King's bounty was like, you know what, I'm just going to look that up because it's bothering me. Hold on. Okay, it's actually way lower than I thought it was, and I remember when it was revealed that I thought it was lower than I thought it was. It's 1.3. It's the same as Queen's, basically. There's only a very, like, trivial difference between Queen's bounty and King's bounty, which is strange to me, because I feel like, you know, Queen's should be like 1.3, and then King's would be like 1.5 or something. Okay, I guess with that logic, then Jinbei's might be like 1.4, 1.5. Like, 1.5 billion for Jinbei, that's pretty solid. That's not bad. It's Luffy's old bounty, okay? And if we're going to go along with that logic of like, okay, since Queen and King had pretty much the same bounty, I guess it would also make sense for Zoro and Sanji to basically have the same bounty, if not the exact same one, right? And then Jinbei could be like right below them, but not far off. Also, remember like when Usopp essentially got the same bounty as Luffy's first bounty from the East, you know, 30 million, right? During Enies Lobby. As Sogeking, he was 30 million, so maybe that's something Oda could do. He could be like, okay, Luffy's bounty is 1.5 now, it's going to shoot up to 5 billion, and Jinbei will have 1.5 billion after this, which I think would be very fitting for him, okay? I just don't think it's going to be quite on the same level as Zoro and Sanji. I just have a feeling Oda wants to keep them as like a separate tier, okay? But of course, a monster quartet or whatever, all right? So now let's go through the other Straw Hats, and then we'll finish off with Yamato, okay? So let's start with Nami. Like, let's just go in chronological order here. Okay, so Nami. Like I said, not all the Straw Hats are going to have over 1 billion, and I think it's going to be consistent that Nami still has the lowest real bounty, not counting Chopper. She's going to have the lowest real bounty out of the Straw Hats, okay? But still, I mean, she's really powerful now that she has Zeus, so she has her upgrade, of course, and that's a member of, like, basically Big Mom's soul that she has that she's bossing around. But honestly, I could see a lot of the Straw Hats just getting a boost of, like, maybe doubling their current bounties or something of that nature, okay? Because, yes, they did take out the Toby Ropos, and they did help out in the fight, but I don't think the world government's going to freak out as much over Nami and Usopp and Brook as much as they are over, you know, Zoro, Sanji, Luffy, Jinbei, and Yamato, okay? So let's just double Nami's current bounty, so it's 66, so it would be like 132. Did I get it right? Okay, just like, but I also thought, like, not even going, like, doubling it exactly, but if her bounty was around 120 million, that's like Zoro's second bounty pre-time skip, which was really impressive back there. All of the Straw Hats, except maybe Chopper, are going to have bounties over 100 million, all right? And remember, 100 million, man, that's still a really big deal, okay, to most of the world. Now that we're dealing with, like, the Straw Hats fighting against emperors and everything, yeah, it's like 1 billion or bust or get out of here. But remember Big Mom's crew, okay? So Katakuri had 1 billion, and he was the only one that had over 1 billion of Big Mom's children, okay? Smoothie, Cracker, and Snack all had, I think, over 500 million. But then you get to Daifuku and Oven, who are both still really powerful members of Big Mom's crew. They're Katakuri's twin brothers, and they only had 300 million each, compared to Katakuri, who had 1,057 million, right? So, rank, I think, is also a big factor here. They're like, okay, Nami is just the navigator, you know? She's not, like, the main, you know, she's not, like, the second in command of the ship, although she kind of is. You know what I mean? So they might not be like, okay, we're not going to give her a crazy high bounty. We'll, like, double it, so it's, like, around 120, 130 million, something like that, for Nami, okay? And I still think that'll be pretty much the lowest bounty out of the Straw Hats that's, you know, serious. So then we have Usopp. Okay. I could say a God Usopp joke here, and that would be really funny if it's like Usopp ends up getting all the credit, even though he honestly didn't really do much. Like, there were moments with Usopp, like he was pretending to have Conqueror's Haki, and then the moment with Kinemon and Okiku, that's like big character moments for Usopp, but it wasn't like a moment where Usopp like 1v1'd an all-star and, you know, won somehow, right? Usopp and Nami never actually managed to really defeat their opponents. You know, Usopp did not actually take down Page 1, and yes, while Nami did get the coup de grace, did get the final attack on Ulti, it was really Big Mom and her mazer cannon that actually weakened her quite a bit. You know, blasted a laser right through her stomach. She got back up, and then Nami, one lightning strike with Zeus in hand, was able to take her down, okay? And Usopp, I mean, even if you want to say, if you want to give that win to Nami, be like, fine, she still technically did take out one of the members of the Tobi Roppo. Usopp never did. He never took out Page One. He tried. The attacks didn't really do much to him. And then Big Mom's punch was the thing that really took him out. Okay, so Usopp was like one of the only Straw Hats that never really, at least Brook took out one of the numbers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Frankie took out Sasaki. Sanji, Zoro, they both took out All-Stars. Luffy, of course, took out Kaido. Chopper, okay, I guess Chopper and Usopp. Because Chopper never achieved a victory over Queen. He just kind of like, threw him around the festival hall a little bit, but never really did anything after that. But Chopper, once again, had another important moment, with the nebulizer or whatever that thing was called that, like, cured everybody, okay? So I guess Usopp and Chopper never really had like a serious victory like on their own. I'll still give Brook that because Brook took out one of the numbers. Frankie took out one of the numbers as well. Luffy did, of course. But Usopp and Chopper never did. So, okay. But with Usopp, let's say he's standing at 200 million right now, which is very impressive in the current standings. I think it's only going to increase maybe to 300 million. And if it increases to 300 million, once again, that'll be Luffy's bounty from after Eni's lobby pre-time skip. That'll be a big deal, okay? Like, not every single member of the Straw Hats has to have a bounty of like 4 billion for them to be a big deal, right? We can look at that as the Straw Hats have grown throughout the story, and we can say, holy crap, current Usopp is like Luffy material post Eni's lobby. You know what I mean? And that's very, very, like, impactful, I guess, to the fan base. It's like Luffy's bounty back then was such a big deal, and now Usopp has that bounty. So 300 million for Usopp. It's only a 100 million increase, but I think that's pretty good for him, okay? Then we have Chopper, of course. So Chopper, I mean, if Oda wants to continue the joke, like, look, there's two ways Oda could do this, okay? He can run this joke into the ground until the very last portion of the story when the final bounties are given out, like right before One Piece ends. Straw Hats all get their new bounties as like the king of the pirates crew or whatever. Chopper finally gets the 2 billion or whatever that he deserves at that point, right? So we could do that, or we could give him the serious bounty now when it actually matters, okay? And with that being said, I can go along with the logic of there being 2 bounty posters for Chopper. We could have one of him in his hybrid state, where it's only like 1,000 berries, and then we can have one of him in his monster state, where the world government still doesn't realize it's 2 separate people. And so the monster point Chopper could have, like, I don't know, 400, 300 million, something like that, at least in the hundreds of millions of berries, okay? Maybe something comparable to Usopp's, or maybe even higher than Usopp's, maybe comparable more to Frankie's. We'll get to Frankie in a moment, by the way. But yeah, so we could go at like that, but Oda might very well just be like, I feel genuinely bad for Chopper. Like, I feel really bad for him. Like, at first it was just a joke, 50 berries, it's like, whatever, and then time skip is 100 berries, and it's like, whatever, okay. But now, feeling bad for Chopper, dude. It's like, literally his captain, let's say Luffy does get 5 billion. Zoro and Sanji have 2 billion. Jinbe has 1.5 billion. Every other Straw Hat has over 100 million. And then Chopper gets the, oh, please, 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 just let it be at least 1 million, right? Like, at least let it be that much. That would still be a huge insult to Chopper. But at least let it be 1 billion, right? I mean, 1 million at least, right? He's like a kid on Christmas morning, okay? Appropriate since he was born on Christmas Eve. That's his birthday, December 24th. But he's like, okay, we got the paper. And Chopper's like, please just let it be 1 million. Just let it be 1 million. And then he gets it. And he opens it, and it's like 1,000 berries or something, like 500 berries. Congratulations, Chopper. You have the same bounty as Beppo now. And dude, like, Chopper's looking around and all the other Straw Hats are like, billion, 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 100 million, 100 million, 100 million. Dude, Chopper would, like, I mean, I think he would just break down crying at that point. Like, why don't don't they like me? Why doesn't the government find me threatening? I can turn into a giant monster and wreck battleships. Come on. Like, I would feel so bad for him. Just give him at least, like, 10 million something, Give him at least Krieg's bounty. Chopper's worth at least a dong Krieg at 17 million. If Chopper had a bounty of 17 million, he would shit a brick. He would be like, yes, finally, something. But honestly, he deserves, at least with his raw strength, I think 300, 400 million easy for Chopper, okay? He deserves it at this point, okay? So that's Chopper. Then we have Robin. Now, Robin is, oh, jeez, okay. Provided she doesn't get captured by the government again, provided we don't go down that route with it, with, like, Green Bull arriving and everything, I think that Robin deserves at least $1 billion here. I think Robin deserves, and I said it in the chapter, she could honestly have the second highest bounty out of the Straw Hats, because that would be like a shock factor. It's like you expect Luffy, Zoro, Sanji to have the highest bounties, right? Or like Luffy's at the very top and then Zoro and Sanji right behind him. What if it's like Luffy's 5 billion, Zoro and Sanji are 2 billion, and Robin's 3 billion or 4 billion or something like that, and the government is finally like, listen, we're in the end game, we are done playing around here, okay? She has this bounty, we need to capture her, because if she is allowed to travel with the Straw Hats and they reach Laugh Tale, they're going to find out everything. Everything about the Void Century, everything about the ancient weapons. They might be able to awaken an ancient weapon. Like, the terror of the Straw Hats possibly awakening Pluton or Uranus or something should be terrifying to all the members of the Gorosei and the world government, and they need Robin, okay? They need to capture her finally. It might even be a thing where they need her to, like, okay, we're going to capture Robin so we could use her to help us. So maybe Robin might have an Only Alive change to her bounty as well. I would actually like that at least a few more times, so it doesn't make, like, Sanji's is the only exception, like the only wanted poster in all of One Piece that has, like, the Only Alive on it. So, like, Robin's might have it too. Maybe something like that, because they might need her. Maybe Eam personally wants to speak to Robin, and so Eam is like, Only Alive Robin, 4 billion, let's just roll with this here, okay? Because Liam, over at Grand Line Review, he did a video on, like, what Robin's true bounty should be a while back, like last year, and that was a really solid video, and it's like, out of all the Straw Hats, it makes the most sense. I mean, you of course can make arguments. I think you can make a solid argument on why, like, Chopper's bounty should be like $1 billion, or you can make a solid argument on, like, I don't know, Frankie's bounty being over $1 billion or something like that. But I think out of all of the Straw Hats, the one that, like, stands up the most in terms of, like, having a bounty in the billions that isn't Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, or Jinbe is Robin, for just the knowledge that she possesses, okay? And before I understand, like, the Gorosei and the world government were trying to keep it on the down low of how important she was. But like I said, we're in the end game now. It might be Eam just like, okay, we're not playing around anymore. We're going full steam ahead here, okay? So her bounty's 4 billion. We need her right now. Eam might be like, I want Nico Robin at the foot of this empty throne in 1 week. And if you can't make that happen, I'm going to find a new set of Gorosei. It might be something like that, right? So they might be going ahead here, all right? That's Robin, okay? It could easily be over $1 billion. I think at least it has to be over $1 billion for Robin, okay? Even if it's just 1 billion even, it's like, okay, fine, at least they're beginning to take her seriously, okay? Or at least the bounty is beginning to reflect how dangerous she is to the world, okay? Then we have Frankie, okay? Frankie, I think, could sit comfortably at 400 or 500 million, just because Frankie and Monster Point Chopper are sort of like the powerhouses. At least the world government could view them as like the super big muscular members of the Straw Hats. Zoro and Sanji are obviously stronger, but when it comes to like an imposing figure, like Frankie has a giant robot Megazord with a sword and can fire lasers, okay? And then Chopper is this giant Yeti monster that can like rip buildings apart and like bench press giant boulders and throw them and shit, right? So I think just in terms of like raw intimidation and raw physical power, or raw, metal power as it is with Frankie, I would say 400-500 million would be very appropriate for both of them, okay? Like if they were having the same ballpark of a bounty, that would make sense. And then we have Brook, okay? And then we'll get to Yamato, okay? So then we have Brook. Brook's bounty, you know what I mean? Like he took out one of the numbers, And he does have a really powerful devil fruit, or an interesting one to like literally bring the power of the underworld into the real world. But once again, I just have this idea, I just have this feeling that Brook's bounty is not going to be insanely high. I really don't. I think it's probably going to be, I wrote down in the 200 million range, and that might be kind of low for people, right? Like, but I don't know. I don't see Brook walking out of Wano with like 500 million berries. I mean, maybe I could be completely wrong on this, and I would like to be, but I don't know. I'm just with my gut here, and it's kind of awkward because Brook has no guts because he's a skeleton. Yo! But I'm gonna say probably in the same ballpark as Usopp at the highest. Maybe like 300 million, something like that, you know? Like, he took out one of the numbers, which was impressive, but he didn't take out any of the Tobiropo. He assisted in the fight with Black Maria, like freezing her webs and taking out her little group or whatever, but didn't actually contribute, like, directly to fighting and defeating Black Maria. So he doesn't have any of the All-Stars or any on his, you know, on the Tobiropo on his, like, list of kills or anything like that. Brook honestly was an amazing support character in this arc. It's like Brook went into that battle at Onigashima realizing, like, okay, I'm not a heavy hitter, okay? Brook realizes I'm not going to be the one to 1v1 an all-star. Like, I 1v1 Queen and brought him down, you know? Brook realizes this going into it, and he's like, I'm going to dedicate my entire time here at Onigashima as a support for all the other Straw Hats and whoever may need me, okay? So it's like Sanji needs help and Robin's going to save him. Brook's like, I will go with you. I will help you out as much as I can. I will freeze the surrounding area so that I will deal with the riffraff in the background so that nobody can interrupt the fight. You have the main fight, Robin. I will be back here as support. When Robin passes out after using Demonio, Brook is like, I will make sure that, you know, I get you to a safe place and I will always be by your side to support you in case other random attacks are, you know, from like, oh, someone threw a knife, someone threw a shuriken, bang, bang, you know, Brook's that. It's like, oh no, there's an entire bunch of, you know, riffraff, like waiters or pleasures coming up the stairs. I'm going to freeze that so they all fall down, you know. He does the shit he can do, and he knows he can do reliably. Now, it's also important to mention that if Brook did end up going 1v1 against one of the Tobiropo, I mean, it depends on the Tobiropo, but I think he would have a pretty good chance of winning. Like, if it was Brook against Page 1, I think Brook would have had a pretty good solid chance of beating Page 1 there. If it was Brook against Who's Who, once again, I think, I mean, Who's Who could have won that fight, but I think Brook had a pretty solid chance too. But going into the battle, Brook didn't go with that idea. He's just like, for whatever reason, he's just like, I'm going to be a support character here, and I'm going to be the best I can be at that, and he excelled phenomenally, right? He did a great job here. So, but for that reason, he doesn't have a big bombastic finish, like, you know, sliced up one of the Tobiropo, shing, and then bounty is 700 million or something like that. It's not going to be like that with him. So I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere around the border of like 200 to 300 million for Brook. So sorry, Brook, but that's what I view. But you did an amazing job in this arc. You did an incredible job being what you are, okay? A rock and roll dancing support skeleton. Okay, there you go. So that's the Straw Hats, of course. But now, of course, we have Yamato, right? Okay, so we have Yamato. There's a lot of factors here. Number one, if Yamato does join the Straw Hats, does the world government and the Marines know that she joined the Straw Hats? Because that's a big issue right there. Yamato spent most of her life in Onigashima, locked up. So I don't even think that Yamato has a bounty right now. You know what I mean? Like, you know, maybe there's rumors the government hears every now and then that Kaido has a son, you know, somewhere in the depths of Onigashima. But Yamato, just because, you know, Kaido realizes that every time Yamato has the opportunity, she's going to try to leave. So he's like, okay, we're not letting you go out to sea to pillage. And, you know, I'm not going to trust you commanding one of my ships because you're probably just going to take it and leave, you know? So Yamato might not even have a bounty. But of course, if the government finds out this information more about Yamato, like, oh, Kaido does have a child, very powerful Yamato. Okay, so at least I think 1 billion would be fair just for being Kaido's child, like only child, for example, other than Big Mom, who has like a bunch of like kids or whatever. Yamato is very powerful, and she has the same weapon as Kaido does and everything, and very powerful hockey and all that stuff, and a mythical zone. So if all that leaks to the government and they find out about, okay, Yamato's devil fruit and Yamato's power level and everything like that, 1 billion would be, like, I think standard, like baseline, like the child of a Yonko that's this powerful, just like Katakuri. So at least on that level, right? But if it was also discovered that Yamato is joining the Straw Hats and traveling with them, I think the danger level would also increase the total strength of the crew, of course. And it's like that Yamato's bounty could be easily like around Zoro and Sanji's, around 2 billion, okay? You know, I still think it would be lower than both of them, but still right around, like, it wouldn't be far off. Like, if we're going with Luffy being 5 billion, Zoro, Sanji 2 billion, Jinbe being 1.5 billion, Yamato might be right in the middle there between Jinbe, Zoro, and Sanji. So like 1.7, 1.8, something like that billion, okay? Something along those lines, right? Yeah. I don't think Yamato would receive the same bounty as Kaido. You know, just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have the same bounty as my father or anything like that. I don't think the government would go to that extent because Yamato is still so much of an unknown factor for most of them. The only information they would find out about Yamato that's concrete would have been the information they just found out during the war that Apu leaked, right? So that's what I mean, okay? But yeah, so that's what I think. That's how I view the Straw Hats bounties and where they're going. Let me know how much you disagree with all that down below, I guess, in the comments. And we will see, you know, in the next chapter, chapter 1053, what the bounties are. Once again, when spoilers are out, I would ask that you please do not post the bounties on this video. You know, that ruins a lot of people's day when you do that, so I'd kindly ask you don't do that. But with that being said, let's move on to Iguana facts. But before that, actually, I forgot to do this. I was going to do this at the beginning of the video, but I just forgot to. So, the plant's name. Woo, who's ready for this? Who's ready for the name of the plant? Okay, so we got a lot of comments. But I think I was going to do a poll. I was going to get like the most popular ones on the comment section, and I was going to throw that up in a poll and let you guys vote for it as like a final round for the name of the plant. But then I realized I don't really care about the name of this plant all that much. So there is one name that was far and above, had the most upvotes. Like first place was like 2,600 upvotes. And then like the second place name was only like 200 upvotes. So it wasn't even close. It was blown out of the water. So let me pull up the comment really quick here. Okay, so this name comes from Panda22, and the name is Potter. Potter, get it? Because Barry's name is Barry, as we all know, and the plant's name is Potter. So Barry and Potter. Barry Potter. That's about right. Okay, sure, let's go with that. I now christen thee Potter. I gotta, I guess, draw a little lightning bolt scar on Potter's head there, I guess. But anyway, yeah, thanks to Panda for the suggestion. There was a lot of other comment threads that also suggested Potter as an idea, so whatever. But this one has the most upvotes, so I'm assuming this one was first. So there you go for that. Anyway, that's the name of the plant. Now let's go on to Iguana facts. Cue the intro!
Welcome to Iguana Facts with Tekking.
Okay, so Iguana facts. All right, I have finally realized, I've gotten to the bottom of why that, like, some sources say there's, like, 3 species of iguana, and other species list, like 36 or something like that, okay? So first of all, iguana, like the term iguana references the genus of the animal, okay? And in that specific genus of iguana, there are only 2 species and 1 subspecies. And we've talked about both of them. We've talked about the green iguana and the lesser Antillean iguana, okay? We also have the family. So going up on the biological, like, chart or whatever, going from genus to family, there is a family referred to as Iguanidae. And there's a lot more genuses that are in Iguanidae, leading to a lot more species of iguanas, okay? But they're not in the same genus as iguana. They're in the family of Iguanidae. There should be an iguana day. There's probably an international iguana day somewhere. Anyway, in this family, we are talking about the marine iguana, which is native to the Galapagos Islands off the coast of South America, owned by Ecuador. All right, and I love the Galapagos because these were the islands that Charles Darwin did a lot of research and learned a lot of stuff about what would later become his theory of natural selection and the whole concept of evolution. So the Galapagos are insanely important to the history of evolution and how those early scientists and biologists and everything discovered really how natural selection works, okay? It's all in the Galapagos. I remember learning about the Galapagos Islands when I was in middle school and being so fascinated by them. I did a whole presentation in class, like, you know how back then you would get like the poster board and you get little like Natural Geographics or zoo books or whatever, and you cut little pictures of like, I did it on the Galapagos penguin. I remember that. I was like in 6th grade and I did a whole report on the Galapagos Islands, specifically focusing on the Galapagos penguins because they're so adorable. We're going to be doing penguin facts when we get to the letter P. I was debating with panda, but it's got to be penguins, ladies and gentlemen. Got to be penguin facts, okay? But that's a far off way. But another species very interesting that is on the Galapagos are the marine iguana. Now, very fascinating because it is a marine lizard. Now, there are certainly a lot of other reptile species that live in the water and hunt around the water, and that's part of their ecosystems. Like crocodiles are probably the first one. You know, crocodiles are a reptile that live, you know, a lot in the water, and they hunt in the water and everything like that. Then, of course, you have snakes. There's a lot of snakes. I remember I was fishing with my dad recently. We were on the side of the bank, you know, fishing, and then just a little snake just... Oh, there's a snake, you know, just slithering on by in the water. You know, that's what they do. But those are reptiles. It's very weird to have a lizard that is a marine lizard. There's not a lot of those, and one of the main reasons is because a lot of them are, you know, they're cold-blooded, of course. So they're in the water, and if the water is cold, that'll actually sap a lot of their energy, and it just doesn't seem very, like, effective. Like, it doesn't really seem like a good energy return or whatever to hunt in an area that drains you physically, okay? So basically the marine iguana have adapted to this as best as they can. They usually hunt in like low tide areas or areas where they can get on top of a rock very quickly, so they don't go like way far out so they don't have any land to like rest on, because it does sap their energy, you know. The longer they spend in the water and the colder that it is, their heart rate function slows and they won't be able to move as well and everything. And so they basically have to climb on top of a rock or get back to shore or something so they can bask out in the sun, and so they can recharge essentially. Now this also leaves them very vulnerable to predators because they can't really move too well, which has led the marine iguana to being a lot more ferocious, a lot more violent. Okay, so it's way more likely to like snarl, or like the iguana equivalent of snarl, or like bite at you or whatever. Just basically threaten you as much as it can in order to get predators away while it's like recharging its cells or something, whatever. And so one way they have this in order to show that like, hey, stay away from me, is they open up their mouth, and that's like a sign of aggression. Okay, when like the marine iguana is doing this. There's also a bunch of different varieties of marine iguanas for that reason that are all around the Galapagos Islands, okay? The Galapagos are just insane. I would love to visit someday, honestly, just to witness all the different like life forms that live on that, like that archipelago. Anyway, there's also other species of lizards there that kind of coexist with the marine iguana. There are these things called lava lizards, and they will often like jump on top of the marine iguana to get like a vantage point and like look around and stuff. And the marine iguana doesn't seem to really give a shit. They're just kind of like, okay, there's a lizard on my head. Okay, goodbye. And just like, whatever. Seems pretty chill there. Let's see, what else? They are vulnerable right now, so they are a threatened species. A lot of this actually comes from the El Nino cycles, so the El Nino cycles in that part of the world, which leads to like temperature changes and fluctuations and everything like that with the climate, so that actually does affect them in a negative way. Let's see, what else? Oh, this is something I forgot to bring up with the Antillean lizards or the Antillean iguanas, but same basic thing. It is very difficult, apparently, to get certain breeds of iguanas to breed while in captivity. So they're kind of like pandas in that regard. There's just some species of animals that just like, hey, you are severely threatened and endangered. We're going to put you in captivity so you are safe, and then you can breed, and then so your species population can be okay. And there's some animals that are just like, no. It's like, no, we're not doing that. And so pandas are the ones that are the most notable, and it's very laughable how long humans have tried to get pandas to, have more pandas, and the pandas just really don't give a shit, it seems. But iguanas are also like that. Iguanas will mate a lot out in the wild, but it's just something like you take them into a closed environment, and it's just like maybe the stress level or whatever, maybe there's a chemical that they're not getting or something that they're not, and in the wild they would receive, and they're just like, no. So when it came to the lesser Antillean iguanas, there's only been 2 cases where they've actually been able to breed in captivity, which leads to them being endangered. They just won't breed while in captivity. And then with these iguanas, the marine iguanas, there are no instances of them ever breeding in captivity. So it's just a situation like you can make the captive environment, like that enclosed environment, as much like their real environment as possible. But it's at the end of the day, it's just like they can tell, and it's just like, no, it only works if they're in the wild where they're also in danger of being killed by predators. So what are you going to do, right? That's just how it is. So, yeah, that's the situation with the marine iguanas. Very fascinating. And it also means that iguana facts, can continue on now that I've figured out that discrepancy. So, yeah, there it is. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Once again, thanks to B for sending me a bunch of the wanted posters, and we'll get to that later this week when we do the fan mail segment. Okay, so have a good one. Later, everyone.